Hey, it's Jeb Blount Jr. and welcome back to the Sales Gravy Podcast. Today, we're bringing you the absolute best of Q2 2025. And let me tell you, we had some incredible conversations this quarter. We're talking about the discipline that separates winners from the wannabes, the psychology of selling that most reps completely miss, and why your messaging might be sabotaging your entire sales organization. Before we dive in, I've got to tell you about Sales Gravy University. If you haven't checked it out, it's packed with courses that'll sharpen your skills and grow your sales career. And here's the best part. Because you're listening right now, you can get a free course on us. Just head over to learn.salesgravy.com and use the promo code FREECOURSE at checkout. Easy as that. All right, let's get into it. First up, we're starting with something that every sales manager struggles with. How do you get your team to actually do the work when nobody's watching? Cynthia Handle knows what separates the top 1% from everyone else. And it's not what you think. It's not talent. It's not luck. It's something that's simpler and much harder. Let's listen in.
How do you help these folks tie their activity directly to income and help show them that, look, the work that you do in prospecting actually makes you money later on down the road?
So the first thing is obviously like setting metrics. Like when I've run BDR teams, it's not a if I do the 50 calls. It's a must that you do the 100 or whatever calls you're asked to do, because just being disciplined and structured, like what I teach them is time blocking, transformational, period. Like if you look at my calendar, I'm time blocked for life. Like my lunch hour is at 12 p.m. Eastern every day. My cold calling blocks are from 9 to 12 every day, and like 1 hour in the afternoon. Then I have an email block. Then I have a like fixing my day block. Then I have like structure. That's the first thing. If you add structure to your day, you add a timer. Like for example, my morning block. I know I have to do 3 hours of straight cold calls after a daily sales meeting. I put a 3-minute marker and I start dialing immediately. And I don't stop until the 3 hours are over. And the outcome isn't to book a meeting. The outcome is to do the 3 hours of work. Why? Because eventually in those 3 hours of work, I'm going to get into conversations that matter. And eventually I might or might not book appointment. It happens some days that nobody's going to answer. It's just going to go straight to voicemail or unqualified decision makers or gatekeepers, whatever. But it's just doing the work every single day and not mattering what the outcome is. It's being disciplined. Like the good luck finds you where the hard work puts you. Like it's just like, I've seen so many sales reps fail that they're like, no, I'm going to switch everything today. Like the script isn't working. That's why I'm not booking appointments. No, like there is a script or a talk track in place that works, that has been proven to be successful for the other reps in the team. You just have to do the work and the rest will follow.
Did you catch that? The outcome isn't to book a meeting. The outcome is to do the 3 hours of work. That's pure gold right there. Cynthia solved the biggest problem in sales: activity versus results. When you focus on controlling what you can control, the work itself, the results take care of themselves. Time blocking, discipline, showing up every single day regardless of how you feel. That's how you build a sales career that lasts. But here's what's interesting. Sometimes the best sales technique is telling people they might not want what you're selling. Sounds crazy, right? Our next guest will explain why going for the no might be your secret weapon. Mike Maples Jr. was a software entrepreneur before becoming one of the Silicon Valley's top VCs. His approach to selling was counterintuitive, controversial, and absolutely brilliant. Here's Mike on why you should go for the no.
The one thing I'm curious about, Jeb, and one thing I was looking forward to about our conversation is when I was a software entrepreneur before I was in venture, I used to have this saying, go for the no. And so my theory was that when you're a startup, most people aren't going to like what you do. In fact, most people shouldn't like what you do because that's human nature. You know, human beings are conditioned to like things. So if everybody likes your startup idea, it's too similar to what they already know. And so what I would do when I would sell is I would go for the no. I would sit down with a customer and I would say, it may not be appropriate for us to be talking. You know, I solve a very particular problem for a particular customer. And if you don't have that problem and you don't need that software, I can give you your time back. And I would make body language as if I was working my way towards the door. And my goal was to metaphorically get them to grab me and pull me back in and say, no, I do have that problem. I do need that software. Tell me more. Where have you been all my life? And so that's what I've learned about startups is you don't have time to waste with people who don't want what you have. And so what you want to do is you want to find a way very quickly to tease out who does what you have, and then sell to them and only them, and tell them the truth with no tricks about what you do, but qualify out aggressively those people who don't value your advantage.
Yeah, I totally get that. And what you do, by the way, that process of, hey, we might not be the right fit for you.
Yeah.
We're not the right fit for everybody. This might not work for you. That in and of itself is a pattern breaker. In fact, it is the most powerful sales technique you can use. It's called a takeaway. Because if you think about human beings, right, the one thing that we want more than anything else is what we can't have. And if you're a salesperson, people are used to salespeople chasing them, right? They're used to you making them feel important because you really want their business. And when you say, you know what, this might not work for you. And in your body language, right? Your body language, you're like leaning back and you're relaxed about it. I know that you had this experience. People go, no. I want to hear what you got to say. Because the moment that you do that, you're not acting like every other salesperson out there. You're not eager. You're not pushing. You're not driving. You're willing to walk away.
Go for the no. I love this so much. Mike just flipped the traditional sales thinking on its head. When you're willing to walk away, when you're not desperate, when you actually qualify people out, that's when you become magnetic. It's the takeaway technique on steroids. You're not chasing prospects, you're making them chase you. And that psychological shift changes everything about how they perceive your value. Now, individual sales skills are crucial. But what happens when your entire organization is sending mixed messages? Our next guest reveals how companies accidentally sabotage their own sales efforts. Lisa Dennis has seen it all. Engineers trying to sell to non-technical buyers, salespeople making promises that the customer success team can't keep, and marketing messages that don't match reality. Here's what messaging needs to be in order to become bulletproof from the top to the bottom.
I was working with a company. They were about a 10-year-old startup, okay?
Yeah.
10 years old, kind of.
We're an 18-year-old startup.
There
That's
you go.
Fine.
But they had reached sort of a plateau, right? So very technical, internal, original founding team. Everybody's an engineer, selling to non-technical audience. And they were selling it the way they would want to be sold to, not the way they want to be sold to, right?
I imagine it was very flat.
Very flat, really fascinating stuff. So we went to the customers, we did the whole thing, the whole shebang. At the end, their new CMO who brought me in said, okay, and he was the only non-engineer on the team. How do we get this out there? Like, what's your thought? And I said, we're going to get it in here first. And so we did a company meeting, which, he was like, well, we'll just tell the salespeople, or we could give them like this deck. And I'm like, no. This has to be rolled out to the entire organization. So we did a company meeting and we went through the messaging. We went through why we went in that direction. We shared all the key points from the customers that we interviewed, and we provided the whole platform, right, to the sales team. Here's how you use it. Here's the discovery questions that go with it. Here's a set of conversations that you're likely to have, right? And we made sure the entire team, not just the salespeople, knew it. And we had one of their newer salespeople come see us afterwards and said, I've never worked for any company that gave me this much to work with, right? Yeah. And that's the thing. Otherwise, you're on your own, right?
You are.
And that's really hard.
It is hard. And that's why if it circles all the way back, those 5 sales reps who have 5 different value propositions,
right?
And the customer success team that says, why did the salespeople say that? I don't know how to solve that. No, that's not how we do it over here. And it's the customer that says yes and then says no later. And those misunderstandings of intention or what was supposed to be delivered usually comes from marketing not working with sales to deliver a value message that is threaded through our entire organization of what we do as a business, what we expect of you as a business person and as a salesperson. You should say these things because we know that we can deliver on those things and that they mean something to the customer, so that when they go to customer success or they go to tech support or whatever that is, tech support and customer success also have the same congruent message that they know that you're delivering and they can address. If we're all firing out of our hip, there's going to be a lot more
tension and friction in the organization, the business, and how we interact with our customers.
5 sales reps with 5 different value propositions. If that doesn't make you cringe, you haven't been in sales long enough. Lisa just exposed the dirty secret of most sales organizations. Everyone's winging it. When your messaging isn't consistent from the marketing to the sales to the customer success team, you're not just confusing customers, you are literally fighting against yourself. That salesperson who said, "I've never worked for any company that gave me this much to work with," just showed you the power of alignment. Speaking of power, our next insight is about the most overlooked sales weapon in your arsenal and the shocking premium people will pay for it. Yoram Solomon decided to put conventional wisdom to the test. Everyone says trust is important in sales, but just how important is it? What he discovered will change how you think about every customer interaction.
The most important quality for me in salespeople, 3 out of 4 people would answer with the word trust or trustworthiness. And I thought, you know what? It's great to just say it. How about if I see if you'll put your money where your mouth is? So I did a second survey. I gave this example of a house renovation project, $10,000 project. 2 salespeople come in. I did not say that one of them was trustworthy, the other one was not. I just described one of them with the characteristics that I know represent trustworthiness. You know, he's listening to you. He's not trying to get more money. You can see that he's attentive. You can see that he cares about you. The whole list of things that would represent a trustworthy person. The other one, you don't know anything about them. Then they come in with a proposal. And the proposal for both of them is $10,000. Which one will you hire? The one that you consider trustworthy. 100% of the time. Well, it was actually 98.3% of the time. There are a few people that say, I need more. It's not enough.
Right.
I need more. So, which is fair. This is kind of where I landed on what I call today the trust preference. So if price is the same, everything else is equal, price is the same, what is the probability you're going to go with the trustworthy one over the one you don't know? Not one that you actively distrust, that you have reasons to distrust, but one that you don't know. So 100% chose, or 98.3% chose the trustworthy one. Then I said, what if the trustworthy one is asking 10% higher price?
Yes.
98.3%. Ooh. How about 20% higher price? At this point, we're at about 58%, and then we're at 20-something%. But you know, even at 20-something, when I said 50% higher price, I still had 21 or so percent said, I'm going to go with the trustworthy one. And I thought to myself, wait a minute. So first of all, what that represents on average is 29.6%. So people were willing to pay 29.6% higher price to buy from somebody they trust over somebody they don't know, when everything else is equal. Everything, you're getting exactly the same thing.
29.6%. That's how much more people will pay to buy from someone they trust versus someone they don't know. Not someone they distrust, just someone they don't know. Think about that for a second. Trust isn't just nice to have, it's literally worth 30% more revenue. Every interaction, every promise you make and keep, every time you listen instead of pitch, you're building equity that directly translates to your bank account. But trust alone isn't enough if your pricing is completely wrong. Our final guest reveals the math mistake that keeps most businesses stuck in 6 figures when they should be hitting 7. David Neagle has helped countless entrepreneurs break through the 7-figure barrier. But before they can scale, they have to solve one fundamental problem that's hiding in plain sight.
Countless entrepreneurs hit 7 figures in under a year. You mentioned 7, 8, 9 figures, but we'll stick with 7, and then you go from there. If a small business owner is hovering in the 6-figure range and feels stuck, what is one shift they need to make today to finally get to 7 figures this year?
Get their math right. That's one of the first places we look at, is your math right? A lot of times they're undercharging for what they're doing. They're comparing themselves incorrectly in their marketplace, right? So instead of going, what's the average doing? We go, what is the top in your marketplace charging, right? And who is their customer base? And why can't you charge the same thing if you get the same result? It's a big thing. If the math is wrong, everything falls apart. Nothing nothing works. If they're doing all the other things correctly, it's almost always a math problem right? It's a math problem or they don't have the right ideal client. So we adjust those two things. And if they're willing to do the work that's necessary, they'll go right over 7 figures. Oh, like, another thing is this, and you probably know this very well. Inside the sales conversation, they're not actually asking for the sale.
Yeah.
Right? You got to ask for the sale, and not be afraid of what your price is, and when you do that, like they come back to me and they're like, oh my God, I asked for this money and they said yes. I'm like, yes. People want to buy. It's like, surprisingly enough, people want to buy.
It's weird, right? When you ask for what you want, you get it, and it's
you get it.
It's a really I love this. I love there's two parts of this. The first is the small business part, right? It's hard to do $50,000 a month if you're selling your service or product for $1,000 a pop, right? That's a lot of work. You're gonna have to scale. That's really unscalable. So your story early in the show was you went to $15,000 and then you started growing in your value, and you sold on value and not on the fear that people are going to say no.
Get their math right. It sounds so simple, but David just revealed why most businesses stay stuck. You can't just hustle your way to 7 figures if you're selling dollars for 50 cents. When you're undercharging and comparing yourself to the average instead of the top performers, you're building a business that requires you to work twice as hard for half the results. And that line about asking for the sale, people want to buy. It's weird, right? Sometimes the biggest barrier to success is our own fear of asking for what we're worth. So there you have it, the best insights from Q2 2025. From Cynthia's discipline and structure to Mike's counterintuitive approach to qualification and Lisa's organizational alignment, Yoram's trust premium, and David's pricing reality check, these aren't just nice ideas, they're fundamentals that separate successful salespeople from everyone else. Here's what I want you to do right now. Pick one of these insights and commit to implementing them this week. Maybe it's time blocking your prospecting like Cynthia. Maybe it's practicing the takeaway technique like Mike. Or maybe it's finally having that pricing conversation like David Neagle suggests. Whatever it is, don't just listen, act. And hey, if you want to dive deeper into any of these concepts, remember that SalesGravy University is always waiting for you. Head over to learn.salesgravy.com and use that promo code FREECOURSE and start building the skills that'll take your career to the next level. Thanks for listening and keep grinding, and we'll catch you next time on the Sales Gravy Podcast. Until then, remember, the harder you work, the luckier you get. And when you're tired and you're worn out and you're ready to go home, make one more call.
Thank you so much for watching this video. Please make sure to click like and subscribe so you never miss a single video. And if you want more sales training content, go to learn.salesgravy.com.